You are entering the Flip2Freedom video experience.
Have I got your attention now?
You show me a pay stub for $72,000, I'm gonna quit my job right now.
Do you care to know why I earn the big bucks? But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Great moments are born from great opportunity.
Don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something.
Now, your host, Sean Terry.
Hello again, this is Sean Terry from the Flip2Freedom Podcast, and we are on episode number 141, and we are deep in the middle of a podcast series called the Lightning Fast 5K Formula. What specifically you need to do to go out and get your first 5K check. Now, in this series, first episode, we talked about how to reverse engineer your first $5,000 check. I actually took you through what I call the first check money matrix. I actually give it to you for free if you go to flip2freedom.com/gift, flip2freedom.com/gift. This money matrix literally shows you exactly what to focus on. Leads, right? How many leads do you need to go out and generate your first 5K check? So that is number one, how to reverse engineer your check. We also talked about how to get the phone to ring off the hook. So we talked about that last week or the week before, whenever you're listening to this, how to get your phone to ring off the hook. And we talked about what phone system and tracking and what mail piece. I actually gave you the ability to log into our mail center. I gave you our postcard that is working the best. I gave you list criteria, understanding, frequency, basically the whole thing. Exactly how to get the phone to ring off the hook. And this week, we are going to talk about how to know what to offer. And we're also going to close the gap on free and cheap methods to find deals between marketing, right? Because you deploy marketing, right? It could be a postcard. You have to wait 4, 5, 6 days before it actually hits and the phone rings off the hook. So what do you do between those 4 and 5 days? That's what we're going to talk about, cheap and free methods for getting deals, okay? And also what to offer. This is a massive obstacle for people. They don't know what to offer. They, what is a good deal? I talked about, this business is like being a gold miner. You're actually digging for gold. And if you don't know the difference between gold and dirt, then you're going to get very frustrated very quickly in this business. So go to flip2freedom.com/gift. You can download the first check money matrix there. It's pretty killer. You type in your marketing budget, and then boom, it comes out the spreadsheet right here of how many leads you can get from postcards, from self-generated, and from, say, bandit signs. And then also gives you their check and the average amount. You can do all sorts of stuff. You have net leads, gross leads. I explained that all in that last episode. So, also, too, if you want to get an idea of the whole business, I wrote a book at flip2freedom.com, flip2freedom.com. Right on the front page when you go there, you'll be able to download that book for free. And I've had people tell me it's a 129-page book. It details everything from start to finish of the business. I've had people tell me they spent well over $1,000 for the same book that I give away for free. That'd be pretty interesting. $100,000 would be some serious value. All right, so let's get into this series, get into this episode, and talk about what we're going to talk about here. First off, we're going to talk about how to know what to offer, and we're also going to talk about free marketing methods. Okay, those are the two big things we are going to talk about. Okay, now when it comes to knowing what to offer, there's basically 3 components. There is the formula. Once you understand the formula, then where you actually pull the data, you can pull it from multiple different sources. You can pull it from Zillow, you can pull it from Redfin, you can pull it from the MLS, you can pull it from tax data. The bottom line is once you understand the formula, then it becomes easy to turn around and then pretty much at any data source you have access to, you'll know what to look for in the data to determine value of a property. So you've got the formula, you got to figure out where to get the data, just talked about that, and then the issues, right? What happens if there is no comps? What happens if there is no like properties that are similar to your the property you're trying to get comped on? What happens if there is no sales in the last 90 days? What happens if there's something that doesn't fit within the formula? What do you do and how do you handle that? So we're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to talk about free marketing methods. We're going to talk about Craigslist, a cool tool that you can use that will literally push leads into your inbox. We're going to talk about for sale by owner sites, driving for dollars, and knocking on pre-foreclosure doors. So let's start with the free marketing methods. First, that's going to kind of close the gap. If you remember in the previous episode, 139, in the first episode, we talked about leads is the paramount thing when it comes in this business. It is whether you're a brand new and you're just starting out, if you focus on lead generation, whether it be free, cheap, or paid, that is going to drive the business. It's going to drive opportunities. It's going to drive sellers that talk to you so you can make offers. Also, too, whether you have a multi-million-dollar business, leads is the cornerstone of the entire business. Without leads, you're dead, right? So the bottom line is whether you're starting or you're scaling or you have a big business, the bottom line is leads are the paramount thing. So when we talked about, in last episode was how to get the phone to ring off the hook, we talked about the list and everything like that. The bottom line is that now we want to talk about the free methods and cheap methods to get leads between those gaps, okay? So let's get into it. So the first thing is you got Craigslist, you got Backpage, you've got free like paid classified site. You even got actual classifieds, right? You've got the newspaper. You can look at the newspaper. The bottom line is classified. People put a listing in there to sell a property. Now classified ads are now brought online, and you got Craigslist and Backpage. But Craigslist is a great way. There, people go, oh, you can't get deals off Craigslist. Yes, you can. Craigslist sellers put properties on there all the time looking to sell. Now, the cool thing is what we do is we set up what's called an applet, right, inside of IFTTT. Now, .com. IFTTT.com is if this, then that. So if this happens, then that will happen, right? Just remember that, IFTTT. So in IFTTT, you can create this applet. Up on the right-hand side of the screen right there, you just go to your account and it says create applet. And you create this applet, and what it can do is it says, okay, you pull a search query inside of Craigslist, and you take that search query, you post it inside this applet, and what it will do, and it'll walk you through the process on Craigslist and email. And then what it will do is it will send an email to you of all the listings that fit this search query on Craigslist. So what you can do is when you do a search query inside of Craigslist, you can put keywords like must sell, right? And then must plus sell, and then plus market, plus below market, plus fixer upper, plus discount, plus wholesale, plus cash only, plus cheap, plus needs work, plus best offer, plus ugly house, plus all offers, plus investor special. Those are just some ideas that you can use that you can put in a search query inside of Craigslist. So you put all these different keywords all attached with these plus symbols inside of Craigslist, and you press search, and what's going to happen, it's going to pull back all the properties that have the keywords, fixer upper, or the keywords discount, or the keywords wholesale, cash only, cheap, needs work, best offer, ugly house. It's going to pull all the properties and put it in a nice little display. And what's going to happen is this IFTTT program will go in every 10, 15 minutes. And when that, and basically ping Craigslist with that search query, and then email all the new listings that come up under those particular search queries. So you might get emails coming in 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, maybe 10 times a day with properties from sellers who actually put them on Craigslist. And as soon as it hits Craigslist, bam, it pulls a trigger, if this then that, boom, it sends you an email, and now it comes in your inbox. And guess what you do when it hits your inbox? You call them. You call them and say, hey, I see you got this house for sale. Can I set an appointment to come and look at it? And your goal, remember, from the last episode, your objective is to set the appointment. All right, so that's Craigslist. Now you can do the same thing set up with Backpage and those two sites to basically set up an automated system to where you can have leads coming in your inbox 24/7, which is pretty cool. Now, the other way is for sale by owner sites. Now, when I first got started, the internet wasn't huge, right? So I would go, when I drove to a neighborhood and I drove to a seller's house, I would always drive around the neighborhood looking for rent signs, for sale by owner signs, and looking for distressed houses. So for sale by owner sites now, just like Craigslist, people can put their properties on for sale by owner sites, and they can list them on there. And your objective now is to call them, build a rapport with them, and then schedule an appointment with them to go look at the property, right? Now, they might be asking X, but you can find out what's the reason for selling. The biggest thing when you're talking to someone on Craigslist, or you're talking to someone in for sale by owner, or you're talking for someone that you're calling off a sign, is let me ask you a question, Mr. Seller, what's the reason for selling? The reason is probably the most important part. Now, if there's distress tied to that reason, then you definitely want to make an appointment. Now, sometimes the seller is just like playing poker. Have you ever played poker before? We used to play poker all the time with Texas Hold'em, right? And when you play Texas Hold'em, there's two types of players. There's players that give tells, right, all the time. They might lean back and go, oh, and they're trying to play, like their strength, but there is actually weakness. So that means you re-raise them, right? And then there's people that's going to play strength, which actually might be weakness, where then you might want to, back off on them. Well, actually, it's vice versa. You wouldn't want to re-raise someone with strength. You'd want to re-raise someone that portrays strength, right? In that scenario. So the bottom line is, when you're dealing with sellers, you're talking to them and their stories, and you're trying to find some sort of distress in their story, but remembering that sellers are going to hold their cards close to their chest, and they're not going to give too many tells, because they understand that whoever names the first number first loses. That's number one rule in negotiating. And number two, they just don't want to, they want to reveal their hand just yet, right? So some people will. Some for sale owners I've called up, I've talked to them, they go, oh my gosh, I just got to get rid of this house. I've been trying to sell it forever now. I can't pay a commission, blah, 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 blah. And they'll just lay their cards down for you, right? They just want someone to talk to. So the bottom line is when you are talking to for sale by owner people, the goal is to find out the reason why they're selling, and then the objective is to set the appointment. Now, even if they want retail, it's giving you experience going to the seller's house, talking to them about their property, and then making offers, right? The more offers we make, the more opportunities we have. You never know. They might be in a situation. Now, what I found is, whether it be sellers in distress, sellers that are selling for sale by owner, sellers that are in, maybe pre-foreclosure, it's called time and circumstance. Time and circumstance in the real estate business is huge, right? You have a circumstance, and who knows, during a time period, and this is why follow-up is critical, you might talk to them when they just listed their property on a for sale by owner site or Craigslist or Backpage, right? And if you don't follow up with them, then you're not going to have an opportunity to hit them at the right time at the right circumstance, okay? So let's say theoretically a seller lists on Craigslist for sale by owner or whatever, and it's the first day they list it, everything's fine, they want to get top price. Then a month passes, right? Now they don't have any bites. They're getting these lowball offers. They're getting stressed. Then they get laid off from their job, or their wife says, "I'm out of here," and wants a divorce, or something else god awful happens. So you talk to them on the first day, they say, "I want retail." You talk to them 30 days later, things have changed. What's changed? Time and circumstance. The circumstances changed. Now they got laid off from their job. They don't have time to mess around anymore. They got to get rid of this house. It might be an extra house, might be a rental house, might be whatever. It's sitting vacant. They can't make 2 payments, or they might be running out of money. Time and circumstance. So follow-up is critical during that path. Why? Because you will hit them. A lot of people, they'll talk to someone. They go, "I want retail." They'll forget about them. There is no follow-up sequence. And guess what? They're going to miss out, and someone like me that understands follow-up is going to talk to them over the course of time, and guess what? We understand time and circumstance and get them at the point where either A, they sell the house and they're done, or B, circumstance happens and we're going to be right there to make an offer. So the bottom line is for sale by owner sites are great. Driving for dollars, okay? Now, this is an effective, it's not an efficient, but it's an effective way, okay? Now, we don't have our sales guys driving for dollars. What we do is we have them, when they go on an appointment with a seller. So let's say you talk to someone on Craigslist, you talk to someone on a for sale by owner site, and now you set an appointment to go to their house at 1234 Main Street. And as you're driving to 1234 Main Street, you show up 15 minutes early. You drive around the neighborhood, and you look for sale by owner signs, vacant properties, for rent signs. You're looking for those. And you're looking for boarded up properties, right? That is where you're using your time efficiently because you're going on an appointment. There's been many times I have went on an appointment to meet a seller and I didn't get that deal because the numbers just didn't work or a seller wasn't motivated, but I drive the neighborhood and I found a vacant property and I got that property under contract, right? And it was a smoking deal. And if I never would have applied this method of essentially early driving for dollars before I went to the appointment, I would have never found those deals. So that's how I use driving for dollars. You can then, if you want to find more about them, you can use a site like benverified.com, and you can skip trace them and see if you can find any of the owner, find out any phone numbers, find out anything else about them or relatives or anything like that. Knocking on pre-foreclosure doors. Now, in the last episode, we talked about sending direct mail to pre-foreclosures. Another incredibly not efficient but effective method is actually taking that same list. Remember, these sellers are 30 days out from losing their property. They're getting a postcard from you. Then you go knock on those doors. There might be 100 of them, might be 50 of them, might be 70, it might be 25 of them. Go knock on those doors and talk to the seller and say, "Hey, I'd like to help you before your house goes to auction on so-and-so date." Right? And you go talk to them, guess what? You never know what's going to happen. They might go, "Okay, yeah, what can you do?" "Well, I can purchase a property and we can give you a couple $1,000s to move and we can save your credit." Boom, let's do it, sign the contract, and you get a smoking deal. Pre-foreclosures are some of our best deals because of the time uncertainty, they got an impending event that if they don't fix it within a certain period of time, they're toast, right? So, those are several methods that you can use right now to get cheap and free deals coming into your pipeline. All right, now let's get into what to offer. Now, what to offer? This is a huge hang up. And I tell the story of the first time I went to my first property. It was like a farm. They had like goats and horses and, cows. Stuff like that. Big, nasty farm. and not that farms are nasty, but this was a nasty farm. So we went to the farm, and the house was worth $200,000. The guy wanted like $180,000, $190,000, and I thought it was a smoking deal, right? So I was like, "Oh my gosh, smoking deal, $10,000 of equity." Well, that's not a smoking deal, right? If you're referring to a gold miner that's digging for gold, look, he has to dig through a lot of dirt to find gold, that was dirt. So what happens is a lot of people get started, and I do coaching calls every other Wednesday for the Flip2Freedom Academy group that we have, and I do coaching calls, and people get on there and say, what about this deal, right? And we'll go on Zillow or we'll go on Redfin and we'll search that property, and I go, well, what are you seeing that I don't see? And they're like, well, it's worth 300 and they want 290. They want 285. Well, that's not a deal. And I can tell you that when I have our huge buyers list, and we survey them every once in a while. And when we survey them and ask them what's their number one buying decision, what gets them to pull the trigger, what gets them to pick up the phone and call about a specific property, you know what that is? Equity. The more equity that's in the property, right, the more they're going to jump on it. The more people are going to jump on it. When we have a property with huge equity, man, buyers come out of the woodworks and want this property. The biggest mistake a real estate wholesaler can make is getting a property under contract when it has very little equity, unless there's seller financing involved. Okay, that kind of makes it a little bit easier to sell in the market. The bottom line is equity is the driving force. So the bottom line is when it comes to knowing what to offer, right, you have to find what the retail value is, and we have to find what the lowest of the low comps is, and then we got to get under that. Okay, now I'm in the next, what episode is it? In the episode where I'm how to get the contract signed, right? How to get the contract signed and talking, I'm gonna go in and we're gonna talk about the number and using the repair sheet to get a deep discount on a property, okay? Now, this right here is understanding what the property is worth, and then establishing a baseline number is the maximum amount that you can go, so you understand what your offer amount is going in, okay? So first off, we have to understand the formula. And this formula, I've fixed and flipped probably 150 properties, and I would meet real estate appraisers at my properties. And I would fix them up, I get them all mint, I take before and after pictures, I dig a list of everything that we did to the property for repairs. I'd meet the appraiser out at the property, I'd bring him some water because it's hot here in Phoenix. I'd help him tape the property, so I'd hold the tape on one end, he'd tail it on the other, unless they had a laser or something like that. But I talked to him through the whole process and said, let me ask you a question. Mr. Appraiser, what's your criteria? And I've asked that question, over 100 times to 100 different appraisers, and they all say the same thing, right? All the same thing. The formula is this, and if you guys are listening right now, or watching via YouTube, or wherever you're watching or listening via iTunes or any other network we're on, this is critical. Knowing your formula is critical to this entire business, right? So here's the formula. Number one is we have our subject property. And what we're doing is we're looking for similar properties that are like properties, meaning you don't want to do a single family house to a duplex or a triplex, right? Or a single family house to a fourplex or a condo. It has to be like property. So you want a single family house for single family house. If it's a single story, you want to comp it to a single story. If it's a 2-story, you want to comp it to a 2-story. If it has a pool, you're trying to find a property with a pool. If it's on 4 acres and you have a property that's on a 10,000 square foot lot, you know what? And it might be the same property that there's going to have to be an adjustment for that land to land cash value ratio. That's what an appraiser would do. So you're looking for properties that, number one, are like property. And then you're looking for proximity. You're looking for properties that are within the subdivision. Now, typically when builders go in, they build within a subdivision, right? and in a subdivision. So you're looking for similar properties, similar square footage, similar in nature, that are in other similar properties within the subdivision, okay? If they're not in the subdivision, then you're looking within a 1/4 mile radius, right? A 1/4 mile. Then you go 1/2 mile, and then you go 1 mile, right? You don't want to go further than 1 mile, and we're going to get into issues here in a second. But let's get to the formula. So we want to have like property, number one. Number two, with the proximity, we want to go subdivision, 1/4 mile, 1/2 mile, 1 mile radius, right? Now we want to look for sold properties that have a recorded sale within the last 90 days, okay? Last 90 days. So we look for closed recorded properties in the last 90 days. So now we've got similar property within the proximity, right, of the property, either in the subdivision, 1/4 mile, 1/2 mile, 1 mile, that has sold in the last 90 days. Now, the other thing is the age of the house and the square footage of the house. Age of the house, you want to have within the closest time. You don't want to have a 1950s house with a 2000-year built house. It's not going to work. It's got to be within a 10-year radius, up or down. The closer, the better, right? If it has a pool, you want to find one with a pool. If it doesn't have a pool, there's going to have to be an adjustment onto the price of the property. So you've got that, and then you got square footage. You want to be within 200 square foot plus or minus of the subject property. You have a 1,600 square foot house, you can go 1,800, you can go 1,400. Those would all fall within comps of the property. So now that gives you a search parameter that you can use in any database, right? And you're looking for sold properties in the last 90 days within a 1 mile radius that are within 200 square feet of subject, within 10 years of subject that are similar like properties, right? So now you can go into Redfin and you can look at all you take your subject property. What's the first thing I look at? I look at the square footage. I look at the year built. I look at the, what type of property it is, if there's any pictures on it, if it has a pool or not, lot size, stuff like that. And I looked at that, and then now I know what I'm looking for when it comes to looking in the subdivision. Now, if I don't find anything in the subdivision, then I'll go out a 1/4 mile, right? Now, if I don't find anything in the 1/4 mile, I go out a 1/2 mile, and I want to make sure I don't cross any major boundaries, like any lakes or rivers or major intersections or anything like that. You want to try to keep it within the neighborhood, right? And that's what an appraiser is going to do. So that's our formula, right? That formula applies to any properties that you're looking at. And what's going to happen is, now typically single family, not any properties. Multifamily is going to be different, of course. When you have income property, it's going to be different. Now you're looking at cap rates, you're looking at cash flow, cash and cash returns. But this specifically, we're looking at like properties, similar properties that have closed within the last 90 days. And that's how we're going to determine our comps. Now, within all the comps, there's high comps and there's low comps. High comps are houses that have been renovated, they've been fixed up, they've been sold, they're at top of market. Then you have houses that are sold at bottom of market. Now what you want to do is you want to take the lowest of the low comps, right? 3 of the lowest of the low comps. Now remember, and I forgot to say this, part of the formula is we got to find 3 properties, right? We want to find, there's 3 high and 3 low, we want to find 3. High is going to give us our top line price that it could be essentially sold for. Low is essentially the bottom line price, and there's going to be some sort of gap. Now, becomes an issue. Parts of Southern California, the gap is really tight. There's parts of Florida and parts of Arizona in some neighborhoods where you have a massive gap. You have a $100,000 gap between the highs and the lows. So that is going to be difficult. So if you know your bottom line low price, then you're going to have to negotiate from that point. Okay, and it's going to be negotiated, and we'll get into this next week, using the repair sheet, using any type of distressed situations or anything like that, but using the repair sheet or any type of profit numbers need to happen for the investor. So where to get the data? So that's the formula. Now that formula can be applied to Zillow, can be applied to Redfin, it can be applied to CoreLogic, it can be applied to pretty much any data source. As long as you have that criteria, you can look at any data source and pull data. Now, we use the MLS. In secondary, we use Redfin at redfin.com. Redfin's great because it shows you all the sold properties and it shows you all the listed properties. Sold properties is where the market is. Listed and pending properties is where the market's going. So that gives you a future idea of where the property's going, and sold properties is where the market is. Now, so you can get the data pretty much any source. So the other thing is issues. So what happens? So what if you get a like property, but it's in a rural neighborhood and there's nothing else around it, right? Then you're gonna have to go to 1 mile to 3 mile and maybe from 3 months to 6 months. But here's the deal, and this happens more times than not. We're on a coaching call, someone says, hey, oh my gosh, I can get the smoking deal. I can get it at a steal. It's worth $200 and I can get it for $150, $50,000 in equity. Sounds good. I pull it up on Zillow or I pull it up on, Redfin, and it's in the middle of nowhere, right? It's in the middle of nowhere. I look at, there's no solds going on. There's no active properties that's happening. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. So let's flip the switch. If you were a buyer and you had cash and you were looking for an investment property that you could invest in for a return, either a property you're going to fix and flip or a property that you're going to buy and hold for a long-term rental. The question is, would you buy that property out in the middle of nowhere? Remember, you got to rent it, you got to fix it, and you got to potentially sell it, you got to pour money into it, you got to pay the mortgage on it. Would you buy it? Right? Asking it from an investment standpoint. If the answer is no, then guess what? No one else is going to want to buy it either. Okay? No, I don't care if the seller wants to sell it for $100,000. I don't care if they want to sell it for $50,000. Right? The bottom line is, who's your buyer? And you got basically 3 buyers. You got fix and flip buyers, you got buy and hold buyers, and you got retail buyers, right? They're gonna pay cash, not using a conventional loan. So you got 3 different buyers. So the question is, the majority of your buyers are gonna be investors, either fix and flip investors or buy and hold investors. Very few, 1 in 100 is gonna be a retail buyer. So the people you are targeting and marketing the property to at a discount that you want someone to buy the property quickly, right? Has equity, is that a buy and hold investor or a fix and flip investor. So if a buy and hold investor and fix and flip investor look at this rural property out in the middle of nowhere, if you wouldn't buy an investment, more than likely they wouldn't either. So that's the first thing. People tell me, I'm like, who's your buyer? And they go, oh, I don't know, I just get a good deal on it. Well, who's your buyer, right? If you've got gold, there's a buyer on every single corner for gold. Gold is easy to sell because there's lots of buyers. But if you get this piece of fool's gold, I don't even know what it's called, right? You get this big chunk of nasty fool's gold, who's your buyer? You might hang on to it for a while. It might look like gold, might smell like gold, might have enough equity in it. It's not gold. Why? In real estate, it's location, location, location. We know that, right? We've heard it a billion times. But then we get into it and we get excited and someone calls us with a house in the middle of nowhere and they want to sell it, they want to get rid of it. Oh my gosh, holy cow. And you want to get a contract on it, but it's out in the middle of nowhere and you're going, it's not gold, it's fool's gold. So here's the deal, issues. Now, so you're looking for properties within the city limits, an area where there's activity, where there's listed properties, where there's sold properties, where there's activity going on. A place where someone would have a good rental by schools or colleges or something like that, where people would want to fix and flip and live and they're moving into. So those are the properties that are the bread and butter properties that sell off the shelves. So if there's no like properties, what do you do if you have a property, a 10-acre property with a 10,000 square foot lot? There has to be an adjustment, right? There has to be an adjustment toward that. It becomes difficult. I have comp properties and I go, I have no idea what it's worth. Let's just, let's stick it out for 10 days. We have a contract on it. If we can't sell it, can't sell it. But if we get some bites on it, maybe we get some bites on it, we can turn around and sell it. Remember, because we have a long inspection period, part of our contract allows us to get out of the deal, no harm, no foul. So next thing is no sales in 90 days. Then you're gonna have to go back further, or you're gonna have to go out wider. I typically, what I'll do is if I'm at a mile and I got no sales in 90 days, I'll go out to 2 miles and see if I can pull anything that would give me an idea of what the property's worth. But remember, if you're not finding sold comps, your buyer's gonna do the exact same thing. They're gonna pull comps, and if they can't find anything, the chances of them buying it's gonna be slim to none. If they pull up and there's tons of comps and activity, and you look at the listed properties and a bunch pending properties, there's a bunch going on, that's where they wanna be, especially if they're gonna invest in it for a fix and flip or a buy and hold. All right, so those are basically what to offer in some free marketing methods. Now here's the deal. My video guy, Chris, showed me a video earlier and of Will Smith that pretty much sums up success, right? It sums up, actually great, because we all have fear. Your fear of, well, what if I offer too much? What if I don't know the price? What if I can't find comps? And fear sometimes paralyzes us from taking action because we think of all the things that could go wrong instead of the things that could go right. So this video that he showed me is phenomenal because he talks just about that. So if you guys are on YouTube, watch it. If you guys are on iTunes, listen to it.
And somebody says, yeah, we should go skydiving tomorrow. And you go, yeah, we'll go skydiving tomorrow. Yeah, yeah. And you go, yeah. And everybody goes, yeah. So then that night you're laying in your bed and you just keep, and you're terrified. You keep imagining over and over again jumping out of an airplane, and you can't figure out why you would do that. You wake up the next day and you go, down, and you said where you were going to meet, and everybody's there. So you get in the van and you're like, oh my God. And your stomach is terrible, you can't eat and everything, but you don't want to be the only punk who doesn't jump out of this airplane. So you fly and you go up to 14,000 feet, and somebody opens the door, and in that moment you realize you've never been in a freaking airplane with the door open, and you're looking out down to death. And they say, on 3, and they say, 1, 2, and he pushes you on 2 because people grab on 3, and you go, and you fall out of the airplane, and in 1 second, you realize that it's the most blissful experience of your life. You're flying. There's zero fear. You realize at the point of maximum danger is the point of minimum fear. It's bliss. Why were you scared in your bed the night before? What do you need that fear for? Everything up to the stepping out, there's actually no reason to be scared. It only just ruins your day. The best things in life on the other side of terror, on the other side of your maximum fear, are all of the best things in life.
Don't you love Will Smith? He just gets you pumped up. And guess what? You're listening to this podcast, maybe you listen to other episodes, maybe you watch some stuff on YouTube, maybe you've been studying real estate and you're laying in bed in the middle of the night and all the things are making you go crazy, and what if it happens, and what if I don't say the right thing, and what if I screw up, and what if I write the contract wrong, and what if what if the seller knows that I'm brand new, and what if I can't find buyers, and and we're all freaking out, right? And you got 2 different options. You can just go no action and you get paralyzed, or like Will Smith said, right? The maximum point of basically fear, you're right at the edge, is just take action and do it. Because here's the deal, everything you want, everything, the lifestyle, the freedom, the cars, the toys, the boats, the houses, everything you want is on the other side of terror. The problem is most people live a comfortable life. They're in their comfort zone. They never push outside of a realm of terror. They never do it. So what if you could? What if you could do it? What if you can make it happen? What if you do make the right offers? What if you do get a property under contract? What if you do get your first check? What if that is that first check that gives you momentum? And then you go get another check, and then you go keep going, and now you're scared to death, and maybe you don't know what you're doing, but you push forward anyways, because guess what? You know on the other side of terror is everything you want. And you push forward, and you make it happen, and you go out, and you look up a year from now, 2 years from now, and you're going, I can't imagine life any other way. You get used to it. You get used to it. The bottom line is, what are you going to do? Are you going to be paralyzed by what if? Or are you going to push through it and realize that's the exhilarating part of life? Facing that terror, because you know that everything you want's on the other side. You've got what it takes. There's not one thing that you could say that could convince me otherwise. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to do this business. You just got to help distressed people out of their situation and then match them with buyers. That's it. That's it. So go to flip2freedom.com, flip2freedom.com, download my book, flip2freedom.com/gift, download the Money Matrix, focus on leads, focus on exactly what we're talking about here. And next week, we are going to talk about how to get the contract signed. So what happens is, now you know how to get leads coming in, you're talking to sellers, the objective is to book the appointment, you understand now how to make the offer, what is the formula to making the offer. Now you know the offer price, you've done your due diligence, you get everything ready, now you're gonna actually meet the seller next week. We're gonna shake their hand at the door, we're gonna build rapport, and we're gonna take you step by step in this episode on what it takes to go out and get the contract signed. Step by step. So you know with confidence you can go in and you can get this thing done. And that's what we're going to talk about next week. And you are absolutely going to love it. So do me a favor. If you love this podcast, please subscribe, leave a review on iTunes, go to flip2freedom.com, download the free stuff, and I'll see you in the next episode. No fear. Take care and God bless. All right, so here's what you got to do. Click to the left for another episode. Click to the right. You'll hear a killer success story of people that actually have listened and applied the information. And here, click in the middle, and you will be able to subscribe. Make sure you do that for sure so you'll get updates on all of our newest, freshest content.